Hello, everybody. I'm excited to share this first chapter, or first draft of the first chapter of the book, slated for being finished next year, the book Eyes to See the Wind. And this first chapter in this story, the overarching story of the whole book, starts with a very special patient that I had when I worked at the inpatient unit hospice down in San Diego. So I hope you enjoy this one called I Wait for Words. Need my reading glasses here. I'll share the song after the reading as well, but thank you for listening. Chapter 1, I Wait for Words. I walked in the door to the hospice house, and the managing nurse says to me, "Get ready for an interesting day. The Tijuana Rider bikers are guests of ours." I asked, "Are they nice?" She said, "They're a lively and passionate group, but a bunch of teddy bears. They'll do anything for their brother." When I walked out into the living room, I saw a crew of bustling, bearded, tattooed, bandana, and leather-garbed bikers. Just as I was feeling a little nervous, one of them came up to me. He took my hand and said, "Thank you so much for taking care of our brother. If there's anything you need from us, you let us know and it's done. You guys are family to us now." My concerns dissolved before they had a chance to arrive. I entered the room and saw a thin man with a shaven head bowed, sunken eyes closed and calm. He was laying in his bed, still. I introduced myself quietly, feeling like I was interrupting a conversation he was having. He looked up at me calmly and said, "Thank you. I don't need anything right now." I went to tend to the other patients in the house, and when I would return to him, he would be in that same meditative position and each time say, "Thank you, I don't need anything." Later that day, as I went to check in on him, I felt inspired to offer, "As you lay there, I imagine you're discovering things you never thought of before. If you would like to share anything you're experiencing, I'm here to listen." He smiled at me, gestured to the chair next to his bed. "I've been waiting for you. Please sit with me." He told me his biker name was Astronomo, as he was known for his fascination with the stars and cosmos. As he would ride at night with his brothers, he would often look up and marvel at the space above him. He stated he'd considered himself a practical philosopher, an atheist of sorts, not inclined to the opinions of what other people told him of who God was. He looked at me right in the eyes and said seriously, "I've learned that God is real. It is not who men say he is. It is for each person to discover for themselves in their own way." He lifted his eyes to the ceiling and said that it was ironic how he spent his life so fascinated by the mysteries of the stars, now finally coming to realize he was made from the same dust as the stars, and to those stars he must return. He said that he's been there, knowing he will die soon, but was comforted knowing he's been assured that death is a transformation, not an end or an oblivion. He said that he would share one of his clearest lessons. Once again, he looked right into my eyes and said, "You are God. I am too. And so is everything." And with that, he laid it back in his bed, closed his eyes, and said, "Thank you, my friend. I must rest now." As I left his room, a biker with white hair and big blue eyes came up to me. He asked, "You were in there for a while. How is Brother Astronomo doing?" I shared his insight about the stars and returning to them along with his newly discovered perspective on God. His big blue eyes popped wide open and he shouted, "What? Astronomo has always been an atheist. This is crazy." He ran off to tell the other members of the biker group, met with similar shouts of acclamation. Astronomo had been dying of heart failure and knew his time was coming near. That evening, he requested to be taken outside into the garden so that he could clearly look up at the stars again. We stood out there in his wheelchair, with his wheelchair for quite some time as he pointed out all the constellations to us, with a knowing, contented smile. He said he always thought he would pass away in his home country of Mexico, but was glad to be there now, next door to his country. He said that it mattered not to him where his body was, because his soul was soon to be free of all roads or borders or countries. He said that because of these conversations, he'd never been so excited, or so at peace. We wheeled him back inside and got him settled in bed and bid him good night. And he took my hand and said, "Thank you for your companionship, my friend. Please take what I told you and let it bring you freedom." I told him that I would record a song in his honor once I woke up in the morning, as it was after midnight at the time. He smiled warmly and said, "How wonderful. I look forward to listening." I slept well that night, thinking of him lifting up from his slumber into the stars above him. I woke the next morning and rolled right into the recording studio assembled in the closet of the room I was renting at the time. I took the lyrics I had started from a journey far down in South America the previous year. They fit perfectly for Astronimo. I recorded the song "I Wait for Words" with his precious words in my heart. I finished and went right to the hospice. As I walked in the door, the blue-eyed biker said, "Astronimo just passed." Moments before I walked through the door, he went to join the stars. We arranged to have his body taken to be donated to science per his wishes, and for his brothers to let his biker jacket's ashes fly free in the sky as they rode down the open roads of Mexico. I mentioned that I'd recorded a song for him that morning, and now would share it in his honor, trusting that his final words I received from him, "I look forward to listening." The biker looked at me with a wild grin and asked me, "Have you ever been to TJ?" I was then to be invited for my first time south of the border into the heart of Tijuana, escorted by motorcycle to the headquarters of Astronimo's family. We met at the border and ripped through the streets like flowing water, full speed with ease, weaving like a needle and thread into the depths of the city. One of the bikers waved us in and shouted, We finally turned into the hideout, a cracked plaster wall of graffiti and barbed wire, opening into a sea of motorcycles. One of the bikers waved us in and shouted, "Park in the middle and we'll surround you." As I walked in, I was greeted with tacos, beer, and countless leather-bound embraces of gratitude and warmth. I was led into the main room where I sat in a chair with Astronimo's biker jacket hung over the back. I felt like he was standing behind me as I shared his words, his song, and what I felt like he wanted me to pass along to his family. So there I shared his conversations with God, his return to the stars, and his patient willingness to receive those whispers. Later that night, I returned home, saying adios to my huge new family. I slept well, dreaming of stars, grateful for those words. So there's a little first draft. I'll change it a fair degree, I'm sure, by the time it's done. But there it is. There's what's there so far. So thank you guys, and here now, enjoy "I Wait for Words." I wait for words. Here in the silence, I will stay in a place far from my birth. And though the road uncertain as it is, I will be patient. I wait for words. Little dreamer, little boy, do you long to move the earth, to see the wind our Lord relays, with clearer vision the humble learn?